I sacrificed my dreams so my younger brother could go to college, believing one day he would hold my hand in gratitude, but when success arrived, he stood on stage and never even spoke my name. My name is Sarah, hurt, and I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me because I thought I deserved better. Because I thought sacrifice meant I was owed something in return. Let me start with the brother. Danny was 7 years younger, born when I was already planning my escape from our dead-end town. Dad left when Danny was 2. Mom worked double shifts at the diner, came home smelling like grace and defeat. I was 17, accepted to state with a partial scholarship. Not enough to cover everything, but enough to dream. I had plans, marketing degree, maybe advertising in the city. I was gonna be somebody. Then Mom got sick. Cancer doesn't care about dreams, it just takes and takes until there's nothing left. The medical bills piled like snow in a blizzard. My college fund evaporated first, then Mom's savings, then everything else. I made a choice, I stayed home. Got a job at the insurance office, night classes at community college. Slow and steady, I told. Danny needed someone to help with homework, someone to drive him to baseball practice, someone to believe in him when Mom was too tired to get out of bed. Her such a good sister, everyone said. Danny's so lucky to have. I believed them. I thought I was building something, an investment, a bond that would last forever. Danny was brilliant, straight A's without trying, star pitcher, leadership awards, everything came easy to him, including the full ride to Northwestern. Full ride, the thing I dreamed about but never quite achieved. I'll pay back someday, Sarah, he promised the night before he left for college. I'll take care of, took care of me. I was 25 then, still living in the same cramped apartment, still working at the same dead-end job. But I had purpose. I had Danny's success, I had his gratitude. That was my first mistake, believing gratitude lasts. 4 years later, Danny graduated summa laude, got into Harvard Law on a scholarship, sent me a text, made it, thanks for everything sis, a text. After 4 years of sacrifice, of putting my dreams on hold, of being his cheerleader from hundreds of miles away. A text. I was 29 by then. Still single, still stuck, still waiting for my to begin. All my friends had moved on, gotten married, started careers. I'd been standing still for 12 years, holding a brother who barely called anymore. That's when I met Mike. Mike was everything I thought I deserved. Successful lawyer, drove a BMW, wore suits that cost more than I made in a month. He was confident in ways I'd forgotten I could be. He made me feel chosen. The problem was, I wasn't single anymore. I'd been dating James for 3 years. Sweet, patient James who worked construction and coached Little League on weekends. James who held my hand through Mom's funeral, who never complained when I sent money to Danny, who proposed with a ring he'd saved for 8 months to buy. James was good. James was loyal. James loved me exactly as I was, stuck and bitter and tired. But James wasn't enough. Not after 12 years of sacrifice. Not when I finally met someone who could give me the I thought I'd earned. The first time I told it was just a moment of weakness. We were at a work conference, 3 glasses of deep, talking about dreams deferred. He understood my sacrifice in ways James never could. He saw my potential. Or in this town, he whispered against my ear, could be so much more. I believed him. I wanted to believe him so badly. The affair lasted 6 months. 6 months of hotel rooms and stolen weekends. 6 months of lying to James's face while he planned our wedding. 6 months of telling I deserved this happiness after everything I'd given. Mike promised he'd leave his wife. Promised I'd tell James eventually. We made a lot of promises that meant nothing. The end came fast and brutal. James found the hotel receipts in my purse, not because he was snooping, because he was looking for my insurance card when I got food. He was taking care of me, and I was betraying him. I'll never forget his face when he put the pieces together. The way his shoulders slumped, the way he set the receipts on the nightstand without saying a word. How long? He asked quietly. I could have lied. Should have lied. Instead I told him everything. About Mike, about feeling trapped, about thinking I deserved more after sacrificing so much for Danny. So this is about brother. James's voice was hollow. Cheated on me because are angry at Danny. The truth hit me like a. That's exactly what I'd done. I'd been so furious about my unacknowledged sacrifice that I'd burned down the one good thing in my. James left that night. Took his clothes and his ring and his unconditional love. Left me alone with the mess I'd made. The next morning, Mike called to say he couldn't leave his wife after all. Something about custody, about his reputation. He was sorry, but this was goodbye. Just like that, I had nothing. No James, no Mike, no future I'd been promised. Just me and the choices I'd made in hotel rooms that smelled like other people's regret. That was 3 months ago. James won't talk to me. My friends have chosen sides. Mike pretended I never existed. And Danny, my brilliant, successful brother who I'd sacrificed everything for, he got married last weekend. Sent me a wedding invitation like an afterthought. When I called to congratulate him, he was too busy to talk. Too important. Too successful to remember the sister who made it all possible. I'm sitting here alone in the same apartment, at the same job, with the same dreams gathering dust. Except now I don't even have love to sustain me. I hid away chasing something I thought I was owed. I thought sacrifice was a transaction. I thought if I gave enough, someone would love me the way I wanted to be loved. I thought betraying a good man would somehow balance the scales of my disappointment. I was wrong about everything. 3 weeks after James left, our small town made sure I understood exactly what I'd become. It started with Linda from the bank. She'd always smiled at me, asked about Danny's law school applications, complimented my hair. That Tuesday morning, she looked right through me like I was glass. Then Maria from the grocery store. We'd worked the church bake sale together for 3 years. She turned her back when I said hello, started talking loudly to another customer about women who can't keep their legs closed. The words hit like a physical. But they weren't wrong. Small towns don't keep secrets. They collect them, polish them, and serve them back to at the worst possible moment. Someone had seen Mike and me at the Marriott 2 towns over. Someone else had noticed my car in the parking lot. Someone always notices. By Friday, I couldn't go anywhere without whispers following me. The coffee shop went quiet when I walked in. Conversation stopped mid-sentence at the post office. Even strangers looked at me with disgust, like my betrayal was written across my forehead in permanent marker. That's the one who cheated on poor James. I heard behind me at the pharmacy. He's such a good man. She had all away for what? Some married lawyer who dumped her the second things got complicated. They knew about Mike's wife. They knew he'd abandoned me. They knew everything, and they wanted me to know they knew. The worst part, they were right to judge me. I'd become exactly what they said I was. A cheater, a homewrecker, a woman so desperate for validation that she'd destroy the best thing in her. Work became. My boss, Mrs. Henderson, had been at James's mother's funeral 2 years ago. She'd watched him comfort me, seen how gentle he was with my grief. Now she could barely look at me. The Morrison policy needs reviewing, she'd say, sliding papers across my desk without meeting my eyes. No more small talk about weekend plans. No more asking about my family. I'd become a professional stranger in my own office. The insurance business is all about trust. Who wants to buy a policy from someone who can't keep promises? Who wants their family's future in the hands of a woman who away her own? Clients started requesting other agents. Not directly, of course. They were too polite for that. But suddenly everyone needed help when I was at lunch or busy, or maybe next week would be better. My supervisor pulled me aside after a month of declining numbers. Sarah, I think should know there have been some concerns raised about professionalism. Professionalism, that's what they called it when personal made people uncomfortable. When bad choices reflected on the company image. I'm doing my job, I said quietly. I know but perception matters in this business. Maybe consider whether this is the right environment for right now. She was giving me an out, a chance to leave before they fired me. How generous, I wanted to demand they judge me on my work, not my personal. But who was I kidding? I'd made this bed when I chose hotel rooms over honesty, when I chose excitement over integrity. The loneliness was the worst part. Evenings stretched endlessly without James's phone calls, without plans to look forward to. I'd gotten used to being half of something. Now I was just me sitting in an apartment that felt too big and too small at the same time. I tried calling old friends from high school. Sarah Miller from senior year homecoming committee. We'd lost touch when I stayed home for Danny, but Facebook said she was still in the area. Oh Sarah, her voice went cold the second she recognized me. I heard about James. How could do that to him? He's such a good guy. Everyone loved James. Everyone had loved us together. I'd been part of something admirable, something the whole town rooted for. The girl who sacrificed for family, the man who waited patiently for her to be ready. We were supposed to be the success story. Instead, I'd become the cautionary tale. I drove past our old apartment last week. James had moved out completely, but I saw him loading boxes from storage. He looked thin or tired. When he saw my car, he didn't wave or acknowledge me. Just kept loading boxes like I was another stranger on the street. That more than the town's whispers. James had erased me so completely that I might as well have been a ghost. I wanted to roll down the window, to apologize again, to beg him to forgive me. But what was the point? Sorry doesn't undo betrayal. Regret doesn't resurrect trust. Mike had moved on too. I'd seen his wife's Instagram, all happy family photos and anniversary celebrations. So grateful for this man and the we've built together. No mention of the 6 months he'd spent promising to leave her for someone else. His betrayal of her had been casual. Mine of James had been devastating. The difference was in what we'd destroyed. I called Danny that night, desperate for connection with someone who still might love me. Hey sis, he answered, distracted. I could hear traffic in the background, city sounds. I'm heading into a client meeting. Always busy, always important, always somewhere else. I just wanted to talk, I said. Things have been hard here. Oh right, Mom mentioned something about James breaking. That's rough, but are better off. We're settling anyway. Settling, like James's 3 years of devotion meant nothing. Like his proposal was an insult I should have rejected. Danny, I need to tell something. I made a terrible mistake. Look, Sarah, breakups happen. I'll find someone else. Maybe someone who actually appreciates what bring to the table. No. Someone who can take care of the way took care of all of us. He didn't understand. Didn't want to understand. In his mind I deserved better than James, so losing James was probably a good thing. He had no idea I'd been the one who destroyed everything. I cheated on him, I said quietly. Silence. Danny, that's not like Sarah. I know, I messed everything. I lost him, I lost my friends, I might lose my job. I don't know what to do. More silence. Then, listen, I really do have to go. This client is huge for the firm, but maybe should talk to someone, like professionally. Sometimes people make bad choices when they're unhappy. A therapist. He wanted me to pay a stranger to listen to problems he didn't have time for. I love sis, but I can't fix this for, made adult choices, now have to deal with adult consequences. The line went dead. My baby brother, the one I'd sacrificed everything for, had just told me to grow and handle my own problems. I sat in my car outside the grocery store for an hour after that call, watching people go about their normal lives. Families loading minivans with weekly groceries. Couples holding hands in the parking lot. Teenagers laughing about things that seemed impossibly important. All of them looked so sure of their place in the world. So confident in their relationships, their choices, their futures. I used to be one of them. Used to know exactly who I was and what I wanted. Used to believe that good choices led to good outcomes. Heard that sacrifice would be rewarded, that love was enough to build a one. Now I knew better. Now I knew that could throw away everything good in chasing something that was never real to begin with. The town would eventually forget about my scandal. They'd find new gossip, new failures to dissect. But I'd never forget what I'd learned about in those hotel rooms. I'd learned I was capable of destroying everything I claimed to love. 6 months later, Danny called with news that should have been the happiest moment of my Sarah, I got the partnership. Youngest associate in the firm's history to make senior partner. I was folding laundry in my studio apartment, the same clothes I'd been wearing for months, the same routine I'd fallen into since losing everything. Work, home, sleep, repeat. No James to call during lunch breaks, no friends to meet for drinks, just me and the choices that led me here. That's amazing, Danny. I'm so proud of Pawn I was. Despite everything, despite his indifference to my sacrifice, I was genuinely proud. This was what I'd worked for, what I'd given my dreams for. My baby brother, successful beyond anything our family had ever imagined. There's gonna be a ceremony, he continued, excitement bubbling in his voice. They're doing a whole thing at the Palmer House in Chicago. Big dinner, speeches, the works. All the partners bringing their families. My heart jumped. Finally, after 12 years of supporting him from the shadows, I'd get to see him recognized. I'd get to sit in that audience and know that I'd played a part in this moment. That my sacrifice had meant something. When is it? I asked, already mentally planning the trip. I'd buy a new dress, something nice enough for a fancy Chicago hotel. Something that would make me look like I belonged there with my successful brother. Next month, the 15th. I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Silence on the other end, Danny? The thing is, Sarah, it's kind of a small venue, limited seating, really just immediate family and significant others. My stomach dropped. I am immediate family, I know, but Melissa's parents are flying in from California, and her sister with the new baby, and honestly it's been so long since I've been to anything like this. I wasn't sure I'd be comfortable. Comfortable, like I was some country mouse who couldn't handle a fancy dinner, like I was an embarrassment he needed to manage. Danny, I helped raise. I gave college so could have a future. I think I can handle at a dinner party. Look, it's not about handling, it's about, well, things have been complicated for lately, right? With the James situation and everything, I just don't want any drama. Drama. My heartbreak was drama. My destroyed was an inconvenience he didn't want to deal with at his moment of triumph. I won't cause any drama, I said quietly. I just want to be there for another pause. I'll see what I can do. Maybe we can grab dinner the next day, just us. Celebrate properly. He was lying. I could hear it in his voice, the same tone he'd used when he was 8 and promised he'd clean his room later. There would be no dinner the next day, no private celebration, no acknowledgement of what I'd given so he could stand on that stage. The ceremony was televised on the firm's website. I watched it alone in my apartment, eating microwave dinner off a paper plate. Danny looked incredible in his tailored suit, confident and polished in ways I'd never been, everything I'd dreamed he'd become. When they called his name, he walked to the podium like he'd been born for that moment. The speech was perfect. Articulate, humble, inspiring. He thanked his mentors, his colleagues, his law school professors. He thanked his beautiful wife Melissa and her incredible family for their unwavering support. He thanked everyone who had shaped his success story. Everyone except me. I sat there watching my brother accept the highest honor of his career, and it was like I'd never existed. Like those years of working double shifts to keep food on the table, while he studied, were just a footnote in someone else's story. Like driving him to baseball practice and helping with homework and believing in him when no one else did meant nothing. He never spoke my name. Not once in his 15-minute speech did he mention the sister who'd sacrificed her own dreams so he could achieve his. Not once did he acknowledge the woman who'd put her on hold so he could have everything he wanted. I was erased from his success story as completely as if I'd never been part of it at all. The worst part was realizing this wasn't an oversight. This wasn't Danny forgetting in the excitement of the moment. This was deliberate. I was the embarrassing sister with the small-town job and the cheating scandal. I didn't fit the narrative he wanted to tell about himself. In his version of events, he was self-made, a brilliant man who'd pulled himself through hard work and determination. The messy reality of family sacrifice didn't serve that story. I turned off the laptop and sat in the dark for hours. All those years, I'd told I was building something, creating a bond with my brother that would last forever. I'd believed that love and sacrifice created obligations, that if gave enough of to someone, they owed something in return. But debt isn't love, obligation isn't gratitude, and sacrifice without acknowledgement is just loss. I'd thrown away James because I thought I deserved better. Because I thought my years of sacrifice had earned me a different. I'd betrayed the one person who'd loved me without conditions because I was angry that my conditional love for Danny hadn't been properly rewarded. The irony was devastating. I'd destroyed real love chasing the fantasy of appreciated sacrifice. I'd burned down the relationship that actually valued me because I was furious about the one that didn't. Now I had neither. No James, no Danny, no Mike, no future worth imagining. My phone rang 3 days later. Danny's name on the screen. Hey sis, sorry I didn't call sooner. The whole week has been insane. Interviews and photo shoots and client meetings. He sounded high on his own success, on attention and recognition. Everything I'd once hoped to feel someday. I watched the ceremony. I sound great! How did it look on the stream? I was worried the audio might be terrible. It was perfect. Speech was beautiful. Thanks. I was so nervous. But Melissa's dad gave me some great advice about public speaking. He's done a lot of corporate presentations. Melissa's dad. The man who'd been in Danny's for 2 years got credit for speech advice. The sister who'd been there for 20 got nothing. Danny, can I ask something? Sure, what's? Do you ever think about what I gave for? Silence. I mean, I know, appreciate it. I continued. But do you ever think about my college fund? My dreams, that I could have had if I'd been selfish. Sarah, what's this about? We've talked about this before. Made own choices. I made them for. No one asked to do that. Decided to stay home. Decided to take care of mom. Those were choices, and I'm grateful, but they weren't sacrifices made for me specifically. The revisionist history was breathtaking. In his mind, I'd simply made poor choices that happened to benefit him. My sacrifice was reframed as my failure, so don't think owe me anything. Oh, Sarah, that's not how family works. We help each other because we love each other, not because we're keeping score. But I had been keeping score. For 12 years, I'd been adding every missed opportunity, every delayed dream, every moment I'd chosen his needs over mine, and I'd expected payment in full someday. Right, I said finally. That's not how family works, exactly. And honestly, maybe it's time stopped using what did for our family as an excuse for why it didn't turn out the way wanted. Made choices, I made choices. We're both responsible for where I ended. Alone in a studio apartment, unemployed as of last week, abandoned by everyone I'd ever loved or sacrificed for. According to Danny, this was just the natural consequence of my poor decision-making. I have to go, I said. Oh, but Sarah, maybe think about what I said. I've been stuck in victim mode for a while now, and it's not serving, or better than that, victim mode. My brother, who'd built his entire career on the foundation of my sacrifice, was lecturing me about personal responsibility. After he hung, I sat on my couch and finally understood what I'd been doing wrong all these years. I'd been waiting for gratitude that was never coming. I'd been expecting appreciation from people who'd moved on with their lives. I'd been holding everyone else responsible for choices I'd made freely. But understanding didn't make it less. Understanding didn't fill the emptiness where my relationships used to be. Understanding didn't change the fact that I'd thrown away real love chasing the fantasy of deserved recognition. James had loved me without keeping score. Without expecting payment for his devotion. Without demanding I earn his affection through suffering. And I'd betrayed him because I was angry about unrelated disappointments. Because I'd confused resentment with desire, entitlement with love. Now I knew what I really was. Not a victim of ungrateful family members. Not a woman who'd been denied what she was owed. I was someone who'd destroyed everything good in her, because she'd never learned the difference between sacrifice and transaction. Someone who'd confused love with debt collection. Someone who'd chosen betrayal over honesty because she thought suffering gave her the right to others. The town had forgotten about my scandal. My coworkers had moved on to other gossip. Even Mike had probably forgotten I existed. But I would remember forever. I would remember that I'd had everything that mattered and thrown it away for nothing. That I'd been loved completely and destroyed it deliberately. That I'd confused disappointment with entitlement and lost everything worth having. James was engaged now. I'd seen the announcement on Facebook before deleting my account. Her name was Katie and she looked at him the way I used to. Like he was everything good in the world. She was right, he was everything good, and I'd been too bitter about unrelated disappointments to see it. The last time I drove past our old apartment, there was a for sale sign on the lawn. New owners would move in soon, people with their own dreams and fights and hopes. People who might be smart enough to recognize love when they found it. I'd been given everything I claimed to want. A devoted partner, a promising future, the satisfaction of helping someone I loved succeed. I'd been handed a worth living. But I'd been too busy keeping score to appreciate what I had. Too focused on debts that would never be paid to treasure the love that was freely given. Now I sit alone in a different apartment, in a different town, working a different dead-end job. At 32 with nothing but the knowledge of what I away. Danny never calls anymore. James married Katie last month. Mike's family vacation photos still pop occasionally on mutual friends' feeds. Everyone moved on. Everyone except me. Because some mistakes don't get forgiven. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Some choices echo forever in the empty spaces where love used to live. I sacrificed my dreams so my brother could go to college, believing one day he would hold my hand in gratitude. Hurt, but when success arrived, he stood on stage and never even spoke my name. But that wasn't the real tragedy. The real tragedy was that I had someone who did love me, who would have held my hand through anything, who never needed me to earn his devotion through suffering. And I him away because I thought being disappointed meant I deserved to disappoint others. The hollow truth is this: sacrifice without recognition is just loss, but love without betrayal could have been everything.